Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya, Stotarshata Sri Srimad Hesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya, Stotarshata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Viranda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Ghora Bhakti Viranda Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Vishnupad.
Okay, so today is the divine disappearance day of Bhukarba Goswami and Kashishvara Goswami. So I'll speak briefly on these two exalted personalities before getting into Bhagavatam today. Just like Lokanath Goswami, I had the great fortune of speaking on his disappearance earlier this year. Maybe turn it down a little bit, it sounds like it's a little loud. Right, like Lokanath Goswami, there's not so much information about Bhukarba Goswami, and I wasn't able to find so much, so I'm largely just going to be referencing this book, which speaks about the previous acharyas. So it's described that Bhukarba Goswami also went with Lokanath Goswami to Vraj, or to Vraja. Lokanath Goswami renounced the household or ashram in 1510, and he was traveling with Bhukarba Goswami. It's described that the two companions walked through Rajmahal, Tajpur, Purnia, Lucknow, and many holy places before finally arriving in Vraj. Though he had come to Vrindavan on Mahaprabhu's order, Lokanath constantly felt intense separation from the Lord and shed copious tears in his desire to see him again. And it's described here that these two associates, they're very close to each other, as one can expect considering they're traveling together. It's described that extent to which Bhagavān Goswami was dear to Lokanath is described in Bhakti Ratnakar. Lokanath's affection for Bhagavān was well known everywhere. They had different bodies, but in spirit they were one. This is Bhakti Ratnakar, chapter 1, text 317. Gopal Bhatta Goswami was extremely compassionate. Bhagavān and Lokanath are a gold mine of virtues. Bhakti Ratnakar, chapter 6, verse 510. That's a lot. Excuse me. So, again, I'm not going to speak so much on Bhagavān Goswami. Again, much about such a personality is not known to many. Now, unfortunately, let me see. For Kashishwara Goswami, I wasn't able to find very much of anything actually. So I hate to disappoint, but I also don't want to sit here and lie on the Vyasa Sun. So I won't be able to speak much of anything on that personality. So with that being said, yeah, you can take that. I'll be getting into Bhagavatam. Looks like we're having a relatively shorter class today, so hopefully I can say something pleasing to everybody. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, reading from Canto 3, chapter 14, text 47. Yat-prasādād.
Prasādāt.
Oh my Krishna. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stabitam Yena Bhutale Swaim Rupakaramaham Dadati Svapatantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yataf Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Stra Shri Rupam Sagaradatam Sahagana Raganatam Itam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vashan Kanvitam Stra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Varindavaneshwari Varshabhanu Stuti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Bheva Chapatitanam Bhavne Pyo Vaishnave Pyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupādaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namane. Namo Om Vishnupādaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Ghora Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, sorry, word for word. Yat-prasādād. Idam. Viśvam. Prasīdati. Yad-ātmakam. Saha. sva-dṛk. bhagavān. Yasya. toṣyate. ananyayā. dṛśā. yat-prasādād imam viśvam. yat-prasādād imam viśvam. prasīdati yad-ātmakam. prasīdati yad-ātmakam. sva-dṛk bhagavān yasya. sva-dṛk bhagavān yasya. toṣyate nanyayā dṛśā. toṣyate nanyayā dṛśā. yat-prasādād imam viśvam. prasīdati yad-ātmakam. sva-dṛk bhagavān yasya. toṣyate nanyayā dṛśā. Please repeat.
yat-prasādād idam viśvam.
yat-prasādād idam viśvam.
prasīdati
prasīdati
yad-ātmakam.
yad-ātmakam
sva-dṛk bhagavān yasya.
sva-dṛk bhagavān yasya.
toṣyate nanyayā dṛśā.
toṣyate nanyayā dṛśā.
yat-prasādād idam viśvam
prasīdati yad-ātmakam.
sva-dṛk bhagavān yasya.
toṣyate nanyayā
dṛśā.
yat-prasādād idam viśvam.
prasīdati yad-ātmakam.
sva-dṛk bhagavān yasya.
sva-dṛk bhagavān yasya
toṣyate nanyayā dṛśā.
toṣyate nanyayā dṛśā.
yat by whose prasādāt
prasādāt,
mercy of
by mercy of
idam this viśvam universe prasīdati
prasīdati,
becomes happy
becomes happy.
yat whose
Whose
ātmakam because of his omnipotence
because of his omnipotence.
saha
Saha,
he
he,
sva-dṛk
sva-dṛk,
taking special care for his devotees
Taking special care for his devotees.
bhagavān
Bhagavān,
the Supreme Personality of
the
Godhead
Supreme Personality of Godhead.
yasya
Yasya,
whose toṣyate
toṣyate,
becomes pleased
becomes pleased.
ananyayā
Ananyayā,
without the deviation dṛśā
dṛśā,
by intelligence.
by intelligence.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
Everyone will be pleased with him because the personality of Godhead, the supreme controller of the universe, is always satisfied with the devotee who does not wish for anything beyond him. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated everywhere as the Supersoul, and he can dictate to anyone and everyone as he likes. The would-be grandson of Diti, who was predicted to be a great devotee, would be liked by everyone, even by the enemies of his father, because he would have no other vision besides the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A pure devotee of the Lord sees the presence of his worshipable Lord everywhere. The Lord reciprocates in such a way that all living entities, in whom the Lord is dwelling as the Supersoul, also like a pure devotee, because the Lord is present in their hearts and can dictate to them to be friendly to his devotee. There are many instances in history wherein even the most ferocious animal becomes friendly to a pure devotee of the Lord. Okay, so yat-prasādād idam viśvam prasīdati yad-ātmakam sva-dṛk bhagavān yasya toṣyate nanyayā dṛśā. So I said my prayers. In translation again, everyone will be pleased with him because the personality of Godhead, the supreme controller of the universe, is always satisfied with the devotee who does not wish for anything beyond him. So we see here, it's being described ahead of time, Prahlad Maharaj, as we know. He's such an exalted personality and truly imbibes this ashli shava pararatham panashtamam madarshanam manmahatam karotava yatha tatha vaviratatam pato mat prana natastusa eva naparaha. No matter what situation he ends up being thrown into, we see that never does he renege on his devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there's much that can be, there's so much instruction, especially that's given in this pastime, which I haven't reached yet, but we've all, whether we've reached this point in the Bhagavatam, I believe it's Canto 7, where this pastime is detailed. There's a lot of instruction, of course, that can be taken from that. And the pure devotee, in general, they're meant to. They set the standard, you could say. They teach others how to rise to that pure devotional platform, I mean, the platform of pure devotional service. Because otherwise, without that instruction, people wouldn't know how to do this, of course. So it's described, you can pull up in this connection, this point is made that the pure devotee doesn't see anything but the Supreme Lord. You can pull up Brahma Samhita 538, or is it 28? 538. Pramanjana charita bhakti velochanena santasadaiva. I want to go through the Sanskrit. Hridayeshu yalokayanti yangsyama sundarama chintya guna swarupam govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami. Translation reads, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyama Sundar, Krishna himself, with inconceivable and innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion, tinged with the salve of love. It is described in the Purport that the Shyama Sundar form of Krishna is his inconceivable, simultaneous, personal and impersonal, self-contradictory form. There's a lot that could be unpacked in that sentence. But true devotees see that form in their purified hearts under the influence of devotional trance. Now, generally, when you come into devotional service, or at least I had this big misconception that everybody's pretty much seeing Krishna like every step of the day, like no matter what they're doing, whether they're cleaning floors, going on books, because you understand, the understanding is given pretty early on that no matter what service you're engaging on, it's on the absolute platform. So I know like my big misconception coming was, well, this is like must be what the nectar is. Like you're engaging in service and everybody's seeing Krishna. That is not the case. And even like, I mean, I'm pretty neophyte. Still, nevertheless, I certainly don't see Krishna at every step. And sometimes we'll see that even when we're engaging in devotional service, we're not actively thinking of Krishna. And now the understanding might still be there, of course, that this is all for increasing Krishna's pleasure, but we might not be directly perceiving Krishna in like his personal form and relishing that, even though it's described that the pure devotees are doing so at every step. So we see that it's not always just that the pure devotee is seeing the form of Krishna, but they're able to see Krishna in everything. And that's a pretty key understanding. We see a lot of people who might have varying degrees of faith in God according to, of course, their modes of nature and whatever religious faith they might have been exposed to upon being like brought up. And that faith might be really strong. There's a really nice lecture Mahotsa Prabhu had sent me. It's Chinna Sangshaya, and he essentially, it's a name for Vishnu. It's in Vishnu Sahasranam. It's he who slashes all doubts, essentially. And he gives Guru Maharaj, like, it's a 4-part lecture. He gives a really nice understanding. You talk about doubts, but he especially covers in depth the nature of faith, because you see a lot of people who have very proud and very strong faith in whatever their designation is, whether it's like I'm a Christian or I'm a Muslim, and like their faith seems unbreakable, but the nature of that faith might be grounded on so much ignorance, actually. So what's the whole point with that is that the faith of the pure devotee, it's grounded in proper understanding. It's said in today's verse, for example, this because of the Lord's yat-ātmakam, the Lord's omnipotence. The pure devotee recognizes the potencies of the Lord, and because of this, he can relish and see the Lord in everything. We hear, for example, seeing God's hand in things. That's the pure devotee is able to do that in full. So in this connection also, just because it's this word, ātmakam, describing the Lord's omnipotency, we haven't seen him come through in a while anyways. We had one person who would come through back when we were having Sunday feasts, and they very much prided themselves on being an omni-theist, which is, they like to explain very nicely that this means that they like to basically see the proper aspects of different religions and concoct their own ideology that they follow. Like they take the good out of every religion and every theology. Yeah, pretty powerful. It's basically just like, it's a big word for just saying, I'm a mental speculator. That's all it really is. It's like because it sounds like, oh yeah, I'm an omnitheist, and I see and I recognize basically what other people aren't able to recognize because they're just like closed-minded. But actually, they're more deluded than anybody because they don't really actually know what they're talking about. We see that people who try to imitate in this connection, actually, you pull up please, I'm sorry, Upanishad 6. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyayā nupasyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tatu navijagupsate. He who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. So this is actually what it means to be like completely and totally impartial. But we see people who don't know how to do that because they don't have clear knowledge of the Lord and of his energies. When they try to do that, they pose themselves as being on the platform that they're not. There's a really nice point. If you scroll down in the purport, keep going. It's the next paragraph. Yes, there it is. Those who imitate an uttama adhikari by flaunting a sense of oneness or fellowship, but who behave on the bodily platform, are actually false philanthropists. The conception of universal brotherhood must be learned from an uttama adhikari and not from a foolish person who does not properly understand the individual soul or the Supreme Lord's Supersoul expansion who dwells everywhere. So that's a pretty key point. And pretty much we see that, again, as I said, the pure devotee sets the standard and then teaches it to others and guides them in cultivating that vision and that love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not that we go about doing it in a whimsical way. And this ultimately is where we see the importance of practicing sadhana. We can't prematurely try to just jump over doing all the rules and regulations that are prescribed and then just try to relish all these different all these rasas and feelings, and feeling that comes as a result of practicing properly, because there's so much material contamination that's there, and when one doesn't recognize that and tries to then relish these things, prematurely we end up with sahajas, for one thing. You can hear that which is purifying and then still put your own mundane twist on it, and then mistake that prakrita ras to be the real thing, and it's actually not. So then you have Krishna dance with gopis. I also dance with women, and a whole lot of other clearly problematic things that can come as a result of that. So it's incredibly important, this aspect of sadhana. And it's described also that it's not just we see so much the form of the Supreme Lord is being relished, but as I described it, is the pure devotee sees Krishna in all things. So it's also nicely described all throughout Canto 2, for example, the universal form. While this isn't the topmost form that's relished by the devotees, it's still important as we're at least cultivating that vision of the Supreme Lord, to be able to recognize Krishna's energies, and that's what it's said. If you pull up Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Canto 2, Chapter 12, Text 26, and the purport. Whoa, hold on. I'm sorry, 2:126. I made up my own chapter. 26. There you go. So, no, go down to the purport. So we'll scroll up a little bit. Let me see. There it is. Okay, actually, scroll up just a little bit. Maybe it's at the beginning. No, it's fine. Okay, scroll down a little bit more. It's that line. Okay, the conception of the universal form of the Lord gives a chance to the materialist to think of the Supreme Lord, but the materialist must know for certain that his visualization of the Lord in a spirit of lording over it is not God realization. the materialistic view of exploitation of the material resources is occasioned by the illusion of the external energy of the Lord. And as such, if anyone wants to realize the Supreme Lord by conceiving of the universal form of the Lord, he must cultivate the service attitude. Unless the service attitude is revived, the conception of virat realization will have very little effect on the seer. The transcendental Lord, in any conception of his form, is never a part of the material creation. He keeps his identity as Supreme Spirit in all circumstances and is never affected by the three material qualities, for everything material is contaminated. The Lord always exists by his internal energy. So that's a pretty key part. We can never, again, try to divorce these prescribed rules and regulations. There's a reason as to why they're all set in place. Because even with that conception, we see that what has to go along with that is that service attitude. The service is with it being the constitutional position of the jiva. Naturally, there has to be encouragement and engagement in the service. Of course, all to clean and purify the living entity's consciousness. And more on this aspect of purifying, we see, and this is described a couple verses before, how Kashyapa Muni, after engaging in this act with Diti, he goes and takes a bath, and he also chants Gayatri. Gayatri is specifically given so that one can continue to purify the consciousness. But and I was speaking to Viśvaṁ Prabhu about this earlier today, because we recently had a visitor who also chants Gayatri and is not initiated at all. It's not just that you don't have the desired effects as a result of trying to chant the Gayatri mantra without getting initiation. You actually have adverse effects as well, not just spiritually, but materially as well. So it's actually a really destructive and dangerous thing to do. I think there was a case. Actually, I'm not sure of all the details, and I don't want to misspeak. I want to say there was somebody was serving Srila Prabhupada. I don't remember who it was, or if their name was even described in this instance. But I think Prabhupada had pretty much discarded a thread, like his Brahmin thread, and changed it out for a new one. And this devotee had found it, and basically was trying to chant Gayatri on that. Are you familiar with this? Yeah, you've heard it. And I'm pretty sure they ended up just being frustrated or somehow arriving it's not working, or they're not achieving the desired result, because you can't have that purification come about if you're not initiated into chanting that. So anyways, we see that again, where do you try to cut corners and jump over rules, you end up just shooting yourself in the foot. And it's one thing to do that materially, but it's a whole different ball game when you try to do it in spiritual life. Again, adds context to that spiritual life is a razor's edge. It's incredibly important that we follow the acharyas, we follow the pure devotees of the Lord, because they can give Krishna to others because they're always associating with him. That's a pretty key part. When again, another case we'll see. We understand that the pure devotee is said in the Purport, for example, that the pure devotee is not. Where is it? You can pull up today's Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord sees the presence. No, the Lord reciprocates. In such a way that all living entities in whom the Lord is dwelling as the Supersoul, also like a pure devotee, because the Lord is present in their hearts and can dictate to them to be friendly to his devotee. This is pretty amazing. You see that that topmost position of the pure devotee is described in it's 4:11. You can pull up Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 11. Ye yatha mang prapadyante tangs tathaiva bhajamyaham Mama vartmandu vartante manushah partha sarvashaha. As all men surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. O son of Partha. So it's amazing. What's amazing about this is that you'll see Krishna reciprocates with everyone according to the level of surrender that they show him. But he can also dictate that reciprocation within that living entity upon there being interaction with the pure devotee. So it's amazing how, again, because we understand that the Supersoul, as it's described, he's seated within everybody's heart. But that reciprocation he will directly dictate and oversee that, that one acts accordingly with the pure devotee. And in one showing, like, appreciation for devotees, even if it's like even like just like the slightest thing, we might go out and see people who say, "Oh, I like your dress," or maybe they're joking. They say you look like Aang. Even if there's just like some slight bit of appreciation. Yeah, I know. Right? We all have heard it at some point. Even that little bit of appreciation can be beneficial from them spiritually, because they're appreciating devotees of the Lord. So it goes a long way. That's why we hear pure devotees being described as I think it's tirtha. In that they don't just they're tirtaka. Is that the phrase? No. Just anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that the pure devotees don't just, they purify places, and they also purify those who come in contact with them. Or maybe a touchstone would be a better word to use. So there's not a specific verse I was trying to say in reference. It was more a point is being made. Tirtha Korva. Do you know the verse? You can pull it up if you want. And while you're looking for that, actually don't pull that up, because I want you to go back. Go to 4:10 actually really quick. Vitaraga bhayakrotha yajan no manmaya mamupashrityaha bahavo jnana tapasa puttamat bhavam agataha. So being free from attachment, anger, and fear, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So again, this is more just further on the point. So I'm watching time here. That I wanted to make, that this is the position of the pure devotee, and again, that they're fully absorbed in Krishna and Krishna only, and because of that, they can act in a manner, and we see that they're liked by everybody. But what you don't see as a result of that, again, just harping on recognizing who's actually on that platform and who's not. We don't see pure devotees seeking to be liked by everybody. That's a pretty key difference, and that's a big thing also that we see in the movement nowadays, where you might have people who are like pseudo uttamadhikaris, and then they're speaking really nicely, but there's clear, to those who are reading Prabhupada's books and practicing properly, there's clear deviations in their message. But their followers are kanishas, and they themselves don't recognize that they're deviating. So naturally, people who are under them don't recognize who are deviating, and they're saying all this in pursuit of attracting, people to devotional service. But at what level is one thing we also have to recognize. The one who's we see Prabhupada gave everything, of course, is stated as on Bhagavad Gita as it is. There's no sort of diluting of the message. And Guru Maharaj made this amazing point. I wish I had the lecture name fresh in my head, but he basically made the point is if you evaluate, for example, a lot of what Prabhupada did, or at least his speaking, the manner in which he spoke, if you compare it, for example, to a public speaker who has all these cues, and they have the science down to how to attract and speak properly to attract the listeners and keep them engaged, and then make them want to be interested in whatever you're saying, which is normally nonsense anyways. Prabhupada didn't exactly do or follow a lot of those things, but because he had pure devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that alone was enough. And he was able to attract living entities and induce them to give up so many of their attachments because of that. So it's not that we have to, that's the whole thing, is that you see people might be inclined to sacrifice on pure devotional principles or on the principles of devotional service in pursuit of trying to attract other people to devotional service, but then what you give them is something diluted. And again, this is like, I always thought this is like interesting. I understand the whole point of like bridge preaching. It's not easy. Preaching in general isn't easy, but bridge preaching especially is like such a tedious thing because you have to somehow recognize where people are at and then reveal different aspects of the philosophy accordingly in order to bring them to a proper platform. But it seems like the more you kind of build that bridge and you bring them to a certain point, and then the longer you let them stay there at whatever that point is, because either you're waiting to reveal whatever the proper standard is to them, or you're trying to accommodate whatever the point is, the longer they hang at that point in their practice, the harder it is to actually elevate them to that proper standard. So that's why it's incredibly important to always stick to the instructions of the acharyas. And I think, also I wish I had this reference. I think this was a nectar devotion, that when you have somebody who's interested in practicing devotional service, it's not that you lay out all the rules and regulations on them immediately, because 9 times out of 10, I mean, that person will probably become incredibly discouraged to ever take up the practice altogether. It's revealed in time, but it's revealed in time with clear understanding of what the goal actually is. Because if you never, if that's lost, then what's to say that that person will ever actually rise to a higher platform of devotional service? And that's ultimately what it's all for. It's not that we're trying to practice so that we can be in a comfortable material position, but so that we can ultimately get out of the material world. That clear understanding has to be there. And it can never actually come about if one doesn't reveal that to somebody. So, again, importance of sadhana and of the instruction and following the pure devotee and recognizing the platform that they're on. One last thing I want to say in this connection that's also quite interesting. I was reading, well, actually, if you go to the purport for this verse, I'm sorry, I'm jumping a little bit all over the place. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the supreme absolute truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand, how the supreme can be a person. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep this same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. We see this specifically. Prahlad Maharaj tried to elevate his family, and even still, they did not take his instruction. Rather, his father tried to kill him. So we can see that the demon, especially if they're so deep in the bodily conception of life, can still somehow find a way to be averse to their to the devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even worse, if you pull up in this connection, this I really found interesting. It's Bhagavatam. Did I write it down? I have it on my phone. 4, Canto 4, chapter, I want to say 13? What's chapter 13? No, 17. 16. Go to the index for 16. Actually, no. Go to the index for 17. I'm sorry. Scroll. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually gonna say 18. Do you know what I'm looking for? Basically, okay. So what I'm looking at in this connection, this is gonna be the last point I was trying to make. I'm sorry. Go to the index for chapter 18. I'm really sorry. I thought I wrote the reference down, and I'm realizing that I had miswrote it. So, anyways, scroll down. Keep going. There's Prahlad Maharaj gets transformed into a calf by the demons. And the thing is that they, it's described that, so basically, yeah, so Maharaj, King Purthu, he's milking the earth. No. It's specifically saying Prahlad gets turned into a calf. The demons transform Prahlad into a calf. Scroll down, keep going. No, not that one. It's the next one, 16 right there. There you go. Okay, so you can click on it. Anyways, yeah, so the sons of Diti and the demons transformed Prahlad Maharaj, who was born in the Asura family, into a calf, and they extracted various kinds of liquor and beer, which they put into a pot made of iron. He was something crazy. The Purport describes the demons also have their own types of beverages in the form of liquors and beer, just as the demigods use somaras for their drinking purposes. The demons born of Diti take great pleasure in drinking wine and beer. Even today, people of demoniac nature are very much addicted to liquor and beer. The name of Prahlad Maharaj is significant in this connection because Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of demons as a son of Hiranyakashipu. By his mercy, the demons were and still are able to have their drinks in the form of wine and beer. So the thing is that you can recognize the position that a pure devotee is in, and then still try to take advantage of it so you can try to enjoy your senses. And that is like proof. I'm like, that's like really far out. Because it's one thing to not recognize that a pure devotee is like on such a topmost platform. It's another to recognize he's on the topmost platform and then take advantage of it so you can try to sit here and enjoy. So I just recently read that the other day, so I wanted to share that in this connection because I thought it was really, really interesting. So anyways, sorry, we don't have any time for opening up for questions. I believe we're going to have Dhamma Dharti. So, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.